We are live. What is going on, my people?
What's up, Jesse?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just excited that we have Mr. George Hunt here and having another opportunity to shout out and recognize another one of the super awesome communities of practice that are out there across the country. And I'm going to do my best to behave, which you already know what that means. But folks, if you are out there in the Omniverse, let us know, drop a comment, say hello. If you're going to Congress, drop a little cowboy hat in there so that we know that you're coming. We can keep an eye out for you. But we're going to learn a little bit or a lot of bit about the New England community of practice because we got the OG gangsta, Mr. George Hunt, who's all up in the New England CoP. So, Mr. George, would you mind introducing yourself, please?
Sure, absolutely. So thanks for having me on, first and foremost. But I am George Hunt. So I currently work for IPS, which is Integrated Project Services. But I'm the current lead for the New England Community of Practice. I've been for the past couple of years. And yeah, loving it, every minute of it. So
10-4. Well, thanks, man. Thanks for giving this time because I know you got not only like the volunteer efforts and hours that you put into supporting the COP and LCI, but you also have like a real job. So
yeah,
you know, you get to play around like I do all the time. And then we got a lady on here. Who's that?
Is that my key to cue to
That's your key, Jen.
I'm Jennifer Lacey. I lead all of the cultural and lean practices for Robbins and Morton. I am also co-chair with Keon Zandy for the LCI Congress in Arlington, Texas. That will be happening next month.
And it's George's, like the whole conference is really just an excuse to celebrate George's birthday. Did I get that right?
Yeah. It is culminating on that Friday, the 24th, with my birthday. That's exactly it.
Oh, man. So, yeah, we already know. We got to bring the gifts. We got Miss Maria Martin. She says, I made it. What's up, sister? All right, George. So, I think I heard you say that you've been kind of running point for the New England COP for a couple of years. What does that mean? Like how? And I'm looking for like some details so that people understand how much the COPs out there across the country and their members and their core group, how much they actually give in terms of like volunteer time to put the things together to like help reinforce and spread the word across the industry. So you're the lead and you've been there for a little bit. What kind of work do you time, effort, thinking do you put into serving in that role?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Honestly, as our COP, we've been trying to quantify it a little bit more so that when we bring on new members, we can give them a better sense of it so they're not walking in blind. But yeah, I think, well, firstly, I'd say that, the time that I put in is probably just as much as the rest of our core group. We're, I'll say, a smaller core team where there's 7 of us, this year and has been for the past year or so. And we really kind of run it as a full group effort, right? Although I'm the lead, we have a vice lead, we have, someone who's events lead. We all pick up pieces and kind of volunteer to do certain things with different events. So that it definitely is a full team effort on it. But I mean, specifically for me, it's, if I'm not championing an event and doing the organization behind it and figuring all that stuff out, I mean, I get to go to the different COP leader meetings, right? And so I'll bring that back and report to the team. I take notes at our monthly meetings, so there's that.
Nice.
But yeah, no, I mean, from a standpoint of being different from the rest of the core team, I think there's those little things that, just kind of make the different role. But I think just from a core team perspective, if you're on, in the group, it's really kind of volunteering your time to kind of sit down and understand what the community wants to see, whether that's, workshops or presentations or whatever it might be. And then kind of putting together the yearly calendar of what it kind of looks like, and then kind of going through and trying to plan those out. So that's, everything from picking the venue, getting the content straightened out, and then you're figuring out all the food and refreshments and then cost and everything like that, which, that's the not fun part, figuring.
Yeah, that's the work. It's the work.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Getting the content and figuring out what people want to see and then actually putting it on. Yeah, it's great. That's the fun stuff. But, you have all the background stuff, too, that you got to figure out the cost and things like that. Because, as you said, we are, from the COP standpoint, we're all volunteer. And aside from getting sponsorships from companies and, for either a single event or an annual sponsorship, it's basically paid for by the registration costs that we charge. And so, it is kind of like running a mini company, trying to figure out, from a yearly perspective and, what you have for a budget, and then trying to make sure you're not hitting the budget. So it's the project on top of all the projects we do in our daily work anyways.
And so by volunteers, that also means that we're talking like construction professionals that are like lean afflicted, that do this on top of their job.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like it's voluntary.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're I always say it is we do it for the love of the game. It's we're not there getting paid or anything like that. It's we're completely volunteer, and so I think that's one of the unique things is that we're volunteering and we're doing it because we believe in lean and what it can do and help us, and we want to spread that word and bring content to people locally and who are out there who might not know about it as much. And we all have full-time jobs that we do on top of it all, and there's times where some of us on the core team will have to take a step back if there's a super busy month, and then others can step in. And I think that's what's really nice as well, is that at least with our core team, we work together very well. And the fact that if someone says, hey, I got to step away, big project, it's crunch time, I gotta, it's fine. Someone will pick up and, be able to step in and do a little bit more for that month. But yeah, the volunteer piece, I think it's important to highlight, because I think sometimes people don't remember, or sometimes people don't really understand. It's that, we're doing it because we do actually believe in the stuff that we're putting out there, and kind of do it because, we like it. So, yeah.
And speaking of local, you got one local, Steve Martin. He says, CT represent, supported my friend George Hunt. And then we got Mr. Cade Keys. Both of these dudes, I know, they're freaking awesome. Cade saying George rocks, amazing COP leader.
Yeah, Cade's one of our amazing core team members. So
nice.
Okay. Yeah. So you said core group a few times now. And Jen, am I wrong? Like, aren't you on the core group of a COP too?
Yes, so this will be my 8th year as on the core team for the DFW COP, and again, had to take a little bit. I can understand George when he says sometimes you have to take a step back because you're planning Congress. So Keon and I both are on the core team, but did have to take a step back. Had other people backfill and come in and step in to help lead some things. So it is definitely a dynamic group that we have locally. I want to hit on some things that George said. It's volunteer. We know that it's a volunteer organization. We know that it's a volunteer position. It doesn't change the ask. It doesn't change the value of it. It just is one of those things where the people that have made the commitments to be on the core team and to help lead, it's important enough. And it means so much to them to help this industry be better that they are taking on that added responsibility along with their full-time jobs. So it's like, I do this because it's important to me. I also have a job that, supports it, but like, I'm willing to do this because I want to share and I want other people to know what's going on. Very similar when we're talking about projects, Jesse, and you and I talk about this a lot, is our projects are made up of people. And those people are the ones doing the building and the ones doing the work. And our COPs would not exist without the volunteer work of these people.
Yeah. Truth. So, all right. So, George, you're like the lead. what do you look for? Like, what are the signals to you? Like, ooh, that person should be a core member. How do I get them into my sticky web here?
That's a good question too, because I think where the New England COP is right now, and where we have been, I'm going to say since COVID. I don't know, we blame everything on COVID all the time, but with COVID, right? There's the core team kind of that was there disbanded quite a bit, and actually, I think Kate and I were two of the only original members before COVID that stayed with it. So we kind of had to rebuild, and so at that point, we were kind of just like, if there's a warm body who wants to volunteer, you can hop on the core team. So, I mean, right, to be honest about it. But, I mean, I think, number one, it's someone who shows up, right? Shows up to the events, or even if they're not showing up physically to the events, they're interacting enough, whether it's on LinkedIn posts and things like that. So you see that they're passionate about lean and lean construction. And, so that's, I think, a big piece of it. But then also, you start to get to know them and understand that they're a reliable person, that they can step in and pull their weight, so to speak, if they're volunteering to, hey, I'll help set up this event that we're going and doing, that they'll come through and they'll be able to do their share of the work. Because I think that's probably one of the biggest things on a COP. It's like, if you're saying that you'll do your end of the work, is being able to, bring that to the table and not let the rest of the team down. And so I think those are probably, a few things that we kind of look for. And, I still think we're a little bit at that point where if someone said, hey, like, I'd like to be on the core team, we'd more or less take them in.
Come on.
But we're getting to the point where, we're at 7 now, and I think we're, it's a good size for what we're doing. But, we definitely are looking for the people who, if they want to volunteer and say, hey, I'd like to get more involved and I'd like to become, a core member, is, we welcome it with open arms and kind of ask them to come in. Because I think one of the things with especially New England, and I'm sure there's, a lot of the other COPs are in the same boat, we're one of the regional COPs. There are a lot of COPs who are a little bit more, focused on either a state or a metropolitan area, something like that, where New England, we're technically the 5 states, right, that we're trying to cover. Even though size wise, you could probably fit New England in Texas, if you're going by actual size. But yeah, you know what I mean? So there's a lot of ground to cover, so to speak, and try to reach, people from all over the area. And so we've been welcoming in people who are volunteering and saying, hey, like, I don't have the time to be able to commit to be on the core team full time, but if you want to do an event up in our area, right? So like in our case, we were looking at possibly doing things a little bit north up in Maine or in Vermont. If you want to do something up in our area, we'll 100% volunteer to help organize that. And so we've been able to utilize people kind of, on a more temporary type of a basis as well, which has been really helpful.
Oh, I love it. Well, I think we just got you a volunteer here. Miss Melissa Izzy Stetcher. You had me at organization. I think she's in Illinois, but you'll give her a pass, right, George?
Yeah, why not? We meet virtually most of the time anyway, so.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned virtual, because Maine, Vermont, New England, Connecticut, like that's a lot of real estate to cover. And so you've mentioned events. So what type of events do y'all put on, and what's the difference between like what can people expect in terms of an in-person event versus a virtual event?
Yeah, I think we try to make them as close to one another as possible from a experience point of view, because I think, right, you're obviously not going to get the exact same experience if you're virtual versus in person.
Sure.
But if you are doing something virtual, I think no one wants to sit on a virtual call and just stare at a screen and listen to somebody talk, right? And so I think we've all been burnt out with that over the past several years. And so trying to still make those interactive to some point, right? I think there's plenty of software and websites and things out there now with polls and things like that you can do, right, to keep people engaged. But I think the biggest difference for us is just the reach that we're able to get. And so we've done it, I'm trying to think if we did it this year or not, but at least last year, I know we did a couple of hybrid events where we did, there was an in-person presentation and talk through, but we allowed people to call in as well and tried to get them involved in the conversation. And they worked relatively well, especially where if we're utilizing, one of the local companies in their offices, a lot of companies have boardrooms that have the camera and they're able to get that whole experience in, everybody in the room and bring in virtual attendees. And so having a space like that's been really helpful. And so we try to make them as close to the same as possible. But I mean, I think for the in-person ones, we definitely try to focus on those to be, those are more of the longer workshops, stuff like that. If they're going to be a few hours, those are definitely, we usually keep them in person, just because of the length of time.
Right.
You're going to get workshops and things that are hands-on. You're going to want to do them, be there and actually get involved and, not just have to sit there and, listen to people and take notes kind of a thing. And the virtual ones, I think that we've done are either, going to be, if they are workshop like, right, there's going to be a lot of interaction. There's going to be a lot of discussion, breakout rooms, that kind of a thing, just to keep it a little bit more interesting and keep you engaged. Because like I said, I think we've all had the digital virtual fatigue. And so trying to make it so you're not getting fatigued, especially where a lot of these, a lot of times we're at the end of the day. So people have already probably been on calls the entire day anyways. Just trying to make it different. So that's really the biggest thing I think for us is we're trying to make it engaging and trying to make it informative enough that people enjoy being there.
Yeah. And accessible, right? Virtually, in person, hybrid, genius, because it's possible. It can be done. So Jen, doesn't the DFW COP have an in-person event coming up?
We do. So I will celebrate that in a minute. I want to ask George something. So we've been intentional on our core team over the last year or so to our group is a pretty solid group, and it's been the same group for a while. But we also know the people on our core team have been in lean deep, like where we are on our journeys is a lot farther along than maybe those that are just kind of hearing about it or the younger generation. So we've transitioned a couple of younger folks that are excited and that have some new ideas onto our core team over the last year. So my question to you is, what are y'all doing, or how are you engaging that kind of that workforce that's coming in that want to do things differently, their minds a little differently, how they are looking at construction? How are you engaging that group into the events that y'all are hosting? And then I'll tell you about ours next week.
Yeah. We've basically been doing it just from a core team perspective of saying like, hey, if you're coming to the event, like go to your own company and go grab some people and bring them in. And I think we've been able to do a pretty good job of that, right? It's like, not all of us are in positions where we have direct reports, and we don't want it to be like a direct report where you're telling, hey, you need to come to this event. But it is, it is kind of, I would say, us as a core group to spread it within our own companies that we work at. And so being able to go in and just, I don't want to say preach, but talk about what we're doing and let the newer folks know that like, hey, this is something that's out there. You should come by, and really kind of encourage it and bring people in. I think that's how we try to do it for the most part. Years past, when we had, a lot more that was going on kind of as a COP, we did try and do some things with local colleges. We had an event, I think, every year that we used to do a big pole planning simulation with Wentworth Institute of Technology, which is right downtown Boston, that would have students and everyone involved. We haven't done that in, I'll definitely say, since before COVID. But it was something that we used to do, and we'd love to get back to that point. But yeah, I think right now, the biggest thing that we've been trying to do is just from our own personal sphere of influence is anyone you can talk to, just throw it out there, be like, hey, come by. Right. And then also we're trying to make it so, we have to cover costs, kind of like I was talking about at the beginning, but also making it that barrier to entry. So it's not anything that's prohibitive. So, if you're fresh out of college and you're just starting out and, you don't have to sit there and worry about dropping, a bucket load of money to come to an event. Is we're trying to make it, affordable and something that accessible to people that can come out. So, yeah.
Nice. So I want to talk about our event next week. And it goes along to that. How do we get more people in? How do we get them engaged and excited about the stuff that we already know tangles our mind and things like that. So our event is next Wednesday, the 24th, and it is called Lead the Lean Movement in Construction. And we put it that way because Ben Carter, who's one of our younger core team members that we just brought on with Reader Construction, he and I are going to facilitate some conversations with people in the room on, hey, we know we've done some things, but what do you want to see? What's missing? What is it that what are those things right now that you're struggling with? Because we're going to kind of pull the audience and start asking questions, because we're using that as almost a springboard for what next year could look like. And so that is kind of we've cast a very wide net. And I'm going to use the words you use, that barrier to entry. We know we've had some people register. We're excited. I've also know, based on conversations, there are going to be people that just show up because they're excited about the conversation that, that's going to happen there, but maybe they're not involved with LCI and things like that. So it's almost, we've got to be able to open our gates, and we've got to be able to allow for people from all different places to come and be a part of those conversations. And sometimes it's just by letting down some of the barriers, encouraging them and asking them to come in, because we really want to hear what they have to say. So that's our event next week. And again, that's how I think we're trying to get more of the people that are early in their journey, or people that are not sure about what that lean stuff is. But hey, just come in, let's have some conversations, let's answer your questions, and then we'll ask you some questions to see if this is, the path for you.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And so thank you, Jen. I think what I'm hoping the folks out there in the Omniverse are getting is oh, wait a minute, there's a thing in Dallas, and there's a thing in New England, and there's things all over the country,
Yes.
right? So if you are afflicted, or even just lean construction curious, there is likely a COP near you, or you can start an interest group. I know I have a conversation with, oh damn, his name just jumped out of my head. Anyways, out of Vegas, he's planning on starting an interest group in Vegas, because he's got the bug and he wants to see what kind of interest there is out there. And so, George, why did you decide? Why do you do it? Because there's a lot of work and you got a job, but why? What is it about the COP that is important to you for you to continue towing the line?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, number one, like I said before, is those of us on the core group, we believe in it, right? And I think that's kind of the first and foremost, is we believe in, the lean principles, and being able to spread it and have people understand, what is going on out there, and that there's a better way to do things. And I think that's kind of why I still like to do it. Is I've found through my careers that I like to help people do things easier. It's kind of why I'm in the position that I'm in, right, at my company, as the lean leader, and being able to coach and teach. And so I like doing that. And so I think for me, just bringing the content that we do to the masses in our community, and just hearing and letting people see that there's a different way of doing things, or, on the same token, that there's somebody else doing something similar to what I'm doing, and I can go talk to them about it. Just kind of that conversation to be had, because I think, too often we get stuck in our little bubbles, and we kind of think that our problems are our problems and that's it. And so to be able to hear and see that people are also going through similar things, it can be good, right? And we can learn from that and what other people are doing. So I think for me, it's really just being able to bring, kind of the lean values to a larger group and a larger audience, and, show folks that there's a different way of doing things. You don't have to do it this way, but there is something else. And, if you have a different way of doing it too, great, bring it to the table and share it with us as well. So.
Yes, 100%. And it was Aurelio. Thank you, Aurelio. Aurelio is my partner that I got to connect with here on the LinkedIn, and he is starting his own interest group here pretty soon. He's going to be hosting a lean coffee. So give him a shout out. Look, Steve Martin agrees with you. He says there's a hashtag better way to do things. I agree. You don't have to do it the way you can, but you don't have to keep doing it that way. So Aurelio wants to know, can we get more info about the event next week that Jen mentioned? You know what, Aurelio, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you an invite with all the information about the event. It's next Wednesday. It's in Dallas at Texo, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. I know that offhand. And just so you know, even I'm going to be there. So they let the riffraff in. If I can get in, anybody can get in. Now, we've talked a lot about COP. Like, do you have to be in a COP to go to Congress, George? Or can you just go to Congress? Are you going to Congress?
I am going to Congress. It's I feel like it's the one thing every year that I'm like, I need to go to this. This is this is the thing. But yeah, no, you definitely don't need to be, if we want to call it quote unquote a member of a COP to be able to go. And you don't have to know anything whatsoever about lean or lean design and construction to be able to go either. And I think that's the kind of beauty of it with the community that is there, is that you can come in as a complete newbie, or you can come in as 35 years of experience of knowing everything, and you're still going to be able to fit in and find something to be able to go and listen to and learn from. So yeah, as I would say, doesn't matter where you're at with your journey, if you've even started it whatsoever, is you can show up and it's definitely going to be a good time. So
yeah. So one thing I'm going to say this, and then we'll roll into like closing thoughts. What I think is consistent at Congress and the COPs and people that are like, that attend them, is that people are happy. One, they're happy to share lessons learned, best practices, whether you invite it or not. Some people are just going to shower you with all of their wisdom, right? But that's okay. It's helpful, but they'll share their lessons learned, which is important, right? For us to make this industry better, because we got a lot of opportunity. I mean, and by opportunity, I mean, we got a lot of work to do to make our industry the type of industry that actually appreciates and values every human being on the buildings that we're building. The other interesting thing, which I'm kind of proud of, is that all of these people that are doing the sharing compete. They work for competing companies, and they still come together, share best practices, and share lessons learned, which I know is not the norm in our industry. And so, folks, if you're out there and you're looking for a group of folks that are trying to do, it can be better, and you want to figure out how to do it better, find your local COP, come to Congress. There are people out there that you can connect with. So with that, Mr. George, you got a closing thought for us, my friend?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say to anyone out there listening and whatever, is definitely, like you said, you don't have to know everything about lean or lean construction to be able to join into the conversation and just kind of come and listen. So whether it's going to Congress, whether it's going to your local community practice, definitely just jump out there and go and meet some folks. At the very least, even if you go and listen and you're not really into the content itself, you're going to meet a bunch of really nice people who like to share, and you're probably going to make a lot of good connections. And then, finally too, is I'll plug our event that's coming up at the end of the month. September 30th, we are having a Congress preview. So one of our local teams who's going to be presenting, at Congress at the end of October, we're having a preview event. So that's going to be, the 30th. It's 5 to 6:30. I'll be in Burlington, Massachusetts. Stantec, who is one of the companies that's presenting there, is, they were able to grab us a space in the adjacent building to where they're at in the office space. So definitely, if you not connect with me on LinkedIn, connect with me. I got posts there, as well as the Lean Construction, LCI New England community practice page. We've posted it there as well. So love to see as many people out as we can for that.
Yes. And is that a hybrid deal, virtual, in person?
It is going to be in person.
Okay.
Possibly going to hybrid if we can figure out the AV in the room.
Oh man, I got some cheat codes for you, bro. That's awesome, man. Good. So you already heard them. September 30th, New England COPs hosting a warm-up session of somebody that's going to actually be presenting at Congress in October. So you get a sneak peek, early preview on all of that wisdom. So awesome. Thank you, George. Jennifer Lacey, do you have a closing thought for us?
I do. I want to hit on something you said, but also plug Congress again because I'm excited about it. We've been planning it for a year. But you talked about doing it together. And you talked about the importance of doing it together. And I know Keon and I intentionally, we're both co-chairs for this event. We both compete against each other in healthcare construction. And we believe with everything in us that I could get better, Jesse, and it will help me. You can get better and it will help you. I could even go and help a project do some things and they'll do well in their little bubble. And even a firm could do some cool things. And then in a little tiny place, they may be shifting some things. But by us sharing, by us collaborating with our competitors and just letting people know how we're winning, how we're losing, things that, that maybe could help someone else do better and start a little further along than we did, it is helping the industry get better. And I think that is the theme that I see in all those lean folks that are out there, really passionate and wanting to do something different. It's because we want to help the industry be better, not just our own self. And so that's, again, what we're focusing on. And if you come to Congress, you'll get lots of that. But also, I know our COPs have lots of really cool events.
Oh, I love it. And folks, if you want information, go to CongressLeadConstruction.org. You can look, there's a button on there for like community. That's where you'll find the whole list of COPs out there. All of the super awesome people that are on the core group that volunteer their time to put all this cool stuff together. I even think there's a picture of George on there. And you can register for Congress. Yes. That's happening just next month. It's a month away.
No.
You know what? I think I got a presentation or two that I need to put together. All right, Jen, it's time for the choreographed dance. Cue the music, please.
Are you ready?